Nevadius Wilburn, Cash, aka Future Hendrix, has amassed nearly every critical and commercial achievement an artist can aspire to. With 16 mixtapes, 5 collaborative projects, and 9 studio albums to his name, Future's flowers are long overdue. The free band's frontman has continuously found new ways to feed his audience through reinvention and renewal. Starting with his underground trap influence and working our way up to the present trap crooner / vibe virtuoso phase we currently find him in, today we'll be touching on some career highlights and significant markers in our search of the best and worst Future albums. If you want that mixtape ranking, let us know down in the comments below. But in the meantime, let's get into these albums. Number 9, Evol. The album's title, Love Spelled Backwards, is oddly characteristic of how we feel about Future's 2016 LP. Dropping a month after Purple Rain, we can't say we have any love for Hendrix's 4th studio album. Ain't No Time, the album's opening track, starts the project off strong with muddy bass and crisp hi-hats. While we get some decent rotational cuts with Program and Low Life, there's not much more we're coming back for on this 40-minute project. Despite heavy involvement from Southside and additional input from Metro, Ben Billions, and TM88, the album sound is forgettable, losing a lot of momentum from his previous releases. It would be his 3rd chart topper in 7 months, moving 134,000 in its first week. Despite the commercial success of the album and its lead single Low Life, which is a couple of platinum plaques short of diamond certification, the project would be his most critically panned since debuting with Pluto. Without any discernible impact on his catalog, we feel Evol ultimately failed to meet the level of artistry he had established for himself at the time. 2016 on paper should have been Hendrix at the peak of his powers. Instead, we get a momentary pause in Future's otherwise meteoric run of the 2010s. Chalk it up to prolific output, the critical lens being placed on him after the success of his cinematic mixtapes and DS2 combo, or the hindsight of knowing what would come with his unprecedented consecutive chart-topping self-titled albums. Try saying that 3 times fast. Ultimately, we're glad the trap visionary saw the writing on the wall and opted for a change in sound. Number 8, High Off Life. Originally titled Life is Good, but changed due to the COVID pandemic, Future's 8th studio album suffers a lot of the same aches and pains as Evol. This one's definitely got more boppers though. Posted with Demons, Accepting My Flaws, Hard to Choose One, and Too Comfortable all remind listeners that Pluto doesn't need to rely on one sound to connect with audiences. Frequent collaborator DJ Esco, whose 56-day Abu Dhabi prison stint would lead to Future's 56 Nights mixtape, served as executive producer on the project. Unfortunately, the album's 21 songs and 70-minute runtime make it feel drawn out and disjointed. Its 5 supporting singles, for the most part, leave it dead in the water. Future largely plays off the influences of his features on this one, despite having garnered the reputation as one of the most innovative artists in hip-hop to this point. Sporting a dozen guest appearances and more producers than We Are the World had vocalists, High Off Life has no clear-cut identity of its own. Often stagnant production, vocal performances that leave little room for experimentation, and a track list that's about 6 songs too deep, this one could have been titled Life Feels Uninspired. An artist of lesser caliber wouldn't even warrant this much scrutiny, but with such a consistent rollout of quality projects, when subpar ones slip through the cracks, it's just that much more apparent. Being his 7th straight #1 album and finding itself between Wizard and I Never Liked You, High Off Life has all the watermarks of a formulaically rushed studio project. Number 7, Honest. Mellowing out on tracks like I Won, Special, and I Be You, Future's sophomore release threads the trap crooner line between his debut. Sounding more confident in his voice and delivery, Honest is Future at his most transparent. The album certainly utilizes resources that came about from Pluto's instant success, yet Honest's simplicity is perfectly embodied on the track Ben's Friends, which sports a highly coveted 3 Stacks feature. Linking up with frequent running mate Drake, Future also taps Pharrell, Kanye, Pusha T, and Wiz for vocals on the 12-track LP. Debuting at number 2 behind 53,000 units sold in its first week, the album fared better with critics than Pluto, showing improved hit-making ability, songwriting, and the urgency of an up-and-coming superstar. Future's artistic evolution would be less of a leap and more like a successful study session. The album would drop months before his public split with then-fiancée Ciara, shifting his plans for the project quite dramatically. Undergoing some major changes from its announcement to release, it was originally titled Future Hendrix. With a more pronounced focus on R&B talent, Future initially wanted Ciara, Kanye, Rihanna, Kelly Rowland, and Jeremiah to feature on the project. Let us know down in the comments, what do you think his current trajectory would be had he explored this lineup rather than the hip-hop heavy Final Cut? Number 6, Pluto. Future's Interstellar debut put the Atlanta MC on the fast track to stardom. Be it Tony Montana, Same Damn Time, or Turn on the Lights, you couldn't go anywhere in 2012 without hearing the bass blasting out of speakers. Devoid of the rapper's signature brand of toxicity, Pluto shows an undeveloped Future still figuring out his sound. Less auto-tuned melodies and more aggressive delivery highlighted his underground Atlanta influence. The album's 41,000 copies sold in its first week would be good enough for a number 8 debut on the charts. 6 months later, the project would be revamped as Pluto 3D, changing the track listing, adding 3 additional songs and 2 remixes. Some interesting points to note. This would be Future's only album without either Southside or Metro behind the boards. It would serve as an homage to his early Southern influences with features from T.I., Juicy J, and Trader Truth. The album would also be his only one to be reissued. Pluto is still rough around the edges for sure, but its impact when examining Future's catalog is undeniable, landing it just outside of our top 5. Number 5, The Wizard. Being released in conjunction with a film of the same name, Future Hendrix's 7th album is our pick for his most underrated. Keeping the track list simple, features from Thug, Gunna, and Travis Scott helped take some of the pressure off of Hendrix's shoulders. Temptation, Jumping on a Jet, and Promise You That all underscore Pluto's ability to combine the energy and demeanor of Future with the melodies and delivery of Hendrix. This fusion of sound and temperament give validity to his knack for aesthetic progression and artistic evolution. The 125,000 units sold in the first week earned him his 5th straight chart topper. The album wouldn't receive the same love from critics as Hendrix, but still managed to leave a good impression with mostly positive reviews. We also suggest checking out Unicorn Perp, Rocket Ship, and Crushed Up if you're looking for some new heat for the playlist. Shout out to Southside, Tay Keith, and ATL Jacob for their collaborative efforts on this joint, man. Sounding like the Justice League and Friends for real. Number 4, I Never Liked You. I gotta take this up with God because I'm a god on the earth. Doesn't get more narcissistic than that, fam. Future's most recent studio album is dripping with misogynistic themes, pill sponsorships, and catchy hooks over 808s. But he catches his stride and never looks back. Love You Better, I'm That Nigga, Puffin' on Zooties. Future disguises his pain behind a thinly veiled toxic persona and drum breaks. It's this nuanced ability to have you in the club and in your feelings that helped secure his first lead single to top the Billboard, while in the process extending his chart-topping album streak to 7. We think he wasted a Kodak feature on Voodoo and Holy Ghost, which sounds derivative of a Montana of 300 song with the same name, but the album's impact and versatility isn't up for debate, because 9 albums in, Future is still on top of his game. Despite receiving mixed reaction from critics, the album would earn Future a Grammy nomination for Best Rap Album, along with a win for Best Melodic Rap Performance. While we can only speculate on who the title is referring to, we're thankful all the same for the inspiration. Before we get to the top 3, no, we're not doing any mixtapes or collab projects for this list, but we want to hear from you down in the comments. If you had to rank his collab projects, either with Juice WRLD, Drake, or Lil Uzi, which one would you have as number 1? And his mixtapes. Run down your favorite mixtape from Future down in the comments. Yes, the list will be coming. Just stay tuned. All right, back to the list. Number 3, Hendrix. Even if I hit you once, you're part of my collection. His words, not ours. Peak charismatic misogyny, Future's 6th studio album lays it all on the table. Dropping the week after Future, his self-titled 5th album, Hendrix is the perfect counter, bringing a softer, more atmospheric sound, harmoniously splitting the pair apart. This led to Future being the first artist to release 2 chart-topping albums in consecutive weeks. Joints like Solo and Hallucinating put the listener in cruise control, almost like a collective psychedelic trip. On Looking Exotic, Use Me, and I Thank You, Hendrix brought vibes to this project that listeners wouldn't have been able to imagine just a week prior. Songs like Incredible and Selfish feel a little out of place, blocking the flow of the album at times, but for a 17-track listing, his hit-to-miss ratio was elite. Here at Culturalist Theory, we like to give artists their props for experimenting with different sounds and styles. Hendrix in a different artist's catalog would probably rank a spot or 2 higher, but that grimy, bass-heavy drug trap lane that Future has commanded is just too well suited for him to put this one over the next 2 projects we're about to touch on. Number 2, Future. Southside doing the dirty work on this album. All-star performances from Metro and Zaytoven helped to tie the project together beautifully. Mask Off, When I Was Broke, Feds Did a Sweep. Future's self-titled 5th studio album is balanced and crucial when viewing the artist's progression. Removing a couple of tracks, namely Out of Time and Might As Well, could have slimmed the album down for sure, but with heavy hitters sprinkled throughout, the 17-track LP will keep you locked in for all 63 minutes. We gotta give Future a round of applause. Few artists would be confident enough to release projects so close together like that. And even fewer would be critically and commercially adored enough to go number 1 both times. Don't forget, he dropped Super Slimy with Thug in 2017 too. We want to hear from the theorists out there. Which year was Future's best, 2015 or 2017? It's a close one. Number 1, DS2. Third time's a charm for Pluto's magnum opus. Coming off an iconic mixtape run with Monster, Beast Mode, and 56 Nights, Future's 2015 has an argument for the best individual year any rapper has had. We don't know what was in the water in the A, but Future, Metro, and Southside were in a different zone. Thought it was a drought, where you at? Stick talk, rich sex, and the list goes on. DS2's true measure of greatness isn't its groundbreaking impact or influence that can be heard in any current day trap, rather its ability to continually shift focus. Every time you come back to this project, there's a new song to love. The album abandons the nuanced rap flows heard on Pluto and Honest in favor of more laid-back deliveries, allowing Future to improvise and float on the beats. It's got club anthems, it's got down-tempo trap love, it's got bangers to ride on in your car. Up until this point of his career, he had built a phenomenal fan base through an unstoppable work ethic and consistency. But this pivotal change in sound was the birth of superstar Hendrix. Give yourself a hand. You made it to the end of another cultural undertaking. We appreciate all the culturalists out there helping the channel grow. We hope to see you next week as we tackle more rankings requested by you, so don't forget to get active in them comments. Hit the like button, smash the super thanks for us, and keep them subscriptions running up. Trying to get to 10K mark, man, soon, ASAP. Shoot for the stars, right? It's CJ Williams. I'm out.